Yes, folks, the left are such hypocrites. They can hold two conflicting views and believe in both of them at the same time. Have a look at this.
Global outrage continues to grow as Brunei's law to punish gay sex and adultery with stoning by death came into force today. New Zealand's also condemned the move from the tiny oil-rich nation located on the island of Borneo in Southeast Asia. Now, celebrities are climbing into the row. Kimberly Downs reports.
He's one of the richest men in the world, today facing its condemnation. The Sultan of Brunei rolling out extreme Sharia law after calling for stronger Islamic teachings, making gay sex and adultery crimes punishable by death by stoning.
This is shocking news. These are extremely cruel and inhumane punishments that have been brought in.
The moves that they have made go fly in the face of both our opposition to the death penalty, but also our principles around inclusion and human rights.
New Zealand joining the chorus of criticism from the United Nations and human rights groups. Big-name celebrities expressing outrage too. The Sultan owns a string of luxury hotels and George Clooney's called for a boycott. He's supported by Elton John and Ellen DeGeneres.
Oh, he's supported by Elton John and Ellen DeGeneres. Both gay and both support Muslims. But for some reason they don't like this particular Muslim. Now let's go back a few weeks, or a couple of weeks ago, and we're in New Zealand. The PC left were standing in solidarity with the Muslim community. And there's our dear leader. And there's hypocrisy at its best. There's our own homosexual Grant Robinson, standing in solidarity with the Muslim community, some of whom would like to see him stoned to death as well. Don't believe me? Have a look at this from a few years back. Now I've posted a link to this, guys.
So, let's examine the question. Is radicalism in the Muslim world a tiny minority phenomenon? So to answer that question, we need to define our terms. We're really not talking about people who are active terrorists. Radical beliefs are a lot broader than terrorists, and anybody who argues otherwise is being naive or foolish or disingenuous. But terrorists draw their moral, financial, and religious support from those who are not terrorists themselves. So, what are the radicals? Ben Affleck actually was right on this. There are approximately 1.6 billion Muslims on the planet, and they're from 49 different countries in terms of where they have a majority. All the population stats, by the way, are from Pew Research as of 2011. Indonesia is the world's most populous Muslim country. It's got almost 205 million Muslims living there. According to one 2009 poll, it showed almost 50% of Indonesians actually support strict Sharia law, not just in Indonesia, but in a lot of countries, and 70% blamed the United States, Israel, or somebody else for 9/11. So, you make that calculation, it's about 143 million people who are radicalized. You scared yet? We're just getting started. Okay, Egypt, 80 million Muslims. According to that same 2009 poll, it showed that 65% want strict Sharia law in every Islamic country, and almost 70% said that they had positive or mixed feelings about bin Laden. So that's 55.2 million more radicals. Pakistan has almost 179 million Muslims. 76%, just over three-quarters, want strict Sharia law in all Islamic countries. That is another 135.4 million radicals. Bangladesh, not a country you tend to think of as Muslim, but there are 149 million Muslims living there. As of 2013, just over a quarter said suicide bombings or targeting of civilians was sometimes justified. Another 82% want Sharia to be the official law of the country, and two-thirds said honor killings of women can sometimes be justified. Honor killings, 2/3. It's 121.9 million radicals. Next.
Okay, now we'll just fast forward to Muslims living in the West.
How about in the West? Okay, let's take it to France. France, 4.7 million Muslims live there. A 2007 poll showed 35% of French Muslims said suicide bombings could sometimes be justified. It's 1.6 million radical Muslims living in France. Great Britain, 2.8 million Muslims living there. 78% wanted cartoonists of Muhammad legally prosecuted. So we're talking about 2.2 million radical Muslims in Great Britain. How about here in the United States? Well, we have a very moderate Muslim population. We do. 2.6 million Muslims live here, according to Pew Research. 13% said violence against civilians can be justified. 19% said they were either favorable toward al-Qaeda or just didn't know. Because who knows, really? That's almost 500,000 radical Muslims here in the United States. Here is the total of the countries that we've gone through just now. 680,030,000. 680,030,000 radical Muslims. And that's out of a total population in those countries of 942.4 million Muslims total. And it seems fair to assume that similar proportions of people in countries like, say, like Algeria, Syria, Sudan, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Tunisia, Somalia, and Libya are also radicalized. And if they are, then, well, we're above 800 million Muslims who are radicalized. More than half the Muslims on earth. That's not a minority, that's now a majority. And that's still not even surveying hundreds of millions of Muslims in other countries.
Yes, folks. From that, folks, you'd have to be in complete denial not to realise that we have radicals living in New Zealand as well. Now, isn't it about time we had some transparent research on that?